Good morning and welcome to our coffee devotional for Tuesday. Uh, Again, following with this exploring the aspects of God and the feminine understanding of God that we talked about in the sermon this week. And the one that, like I said, women especially seem to love is that wisdom is a feminine word in the Hebrew and Greek language. I, I've heard stories of couples um, having heard this tidbit, and perhaps as couples will do sometimes in an argument, and the woman will drop that, well, I am the embodiment of wisdom. Now, of course, both men and women can be wise, but you get the point. Anyway, I draw us to Proverbs chapter 1. Proverbs is a book of wise sayings written by, well, it's attributed to King Solomon, and he probably did write some of them, and some other may have, in his court may have written them. And actually, undoubtedly, they were written by men. The men were the only ones in this time period who were educated, taught to write, and go into these great understandings and such. And yet, and I want you to look at Proverbs chapter 1, verse 20. Listen to how, presumably, Solomon refers to wisdom. Wisdom cries out in the streets, in the squares she raises her voice. The businesses of corners she cries out. At the entrance of gates she speaks. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in scoffing and fools hate knowledge? And it goes on to talk about the power of wisdom. But notice, wisdom and the embodiment of, specifically in this case, God's wisdom, is a she, her, right? Jesus and Paul later will talk about the foolishness of the cross as wisdom, and to those who are perishing, but to the world it is foolishness, and those who are supposedly wise, right? This idea of wisdom is a force in the Bible, kind of like love is an active verb. We've talked about that before. So is wisdom. Wisdom is something that sets people apart. It's something that is revealed from the Logos, God's love and teachings and understandings and living with us. Spirit, wisdom, are inherently connected. The idea of when God breathes life, that is feminine, giving life. Saying the word for breath, the very thing we need to live and breathe, is the same word for spirit, right? And that's an inherently feminine word. The Holy Spirit is referred to as the spirit of wisdom and might. Often, wisdom, might, feminine and masculine, right? So it's interesting because when we talk about the Trinity, we talk about Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Could we be arguing that the Holy Spirit is a more feminine understanding of God versus Father and Son are more masculine? Of course, sure. Again, God is, as we talked about yesterday, God is created in both male and female. But I want to hit today, like I said, with wisdom. In biblical times, for example, take Esther. Why is she? How is God revealed in what she does in her life? It's through her wisdom, right? Wisdom is a blessing from God, just like so many other things, and that's why I think wisdom is a good example for us in the church to see that there are things that God blesses us with, that God gives us, that's present in our lives that are feminine. The giving life is something the churches celebrate. That is a feminine act by default. Like I said, we lifted a bunch up in the sermon, but wisdom is kind of the gateway understanding of an example of seeing a gift from God that's coming from God's feminine nature in the biblical understanding. Now, I did get some pushback, which is fine. This understanding that, well, can men not be wise? Well, of course. Just like men can be reborn in God. However, the God who is doing this action, who's giving the wisdom, who's rebirthing us, is both male and female. And I think by intentionally pointing up the female aspects, we're doing something that the church has failed to do for so long, that only lifting up the male aspects. They're both there, right? So I'm kind of being edgy here, I guess, not really, biblically speaking, because it's all like, well, duh, I wrote she in there for a reason, but that this idea that God works in the feminine ways too. So I've gone on long for a devotional, so wrap it up, Pastor. I hope you have a good day. And hello, we're setting ourselves today. Seek wisdom. Ask what God is calling you to learn in this time. What wisdom can be learned in these days? What wisdom can we impart to others who need it right now? So I hope you have a wonderful day.